Hey, Walt here from StogieReview.com, here with another video cigar review. It's kind of early, it's 5:45 a.m. and I've got a little bit of time before my wife leaves for work, and I need to do a combination of take care of my daughter and work from home. So I thought I would make an attempt to squeak in a cigar and record a review real quick for posting tomorrow. But after looking at the size information on the cigar, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be able to finish it in time. But at any rate, I have for you the Nub Maduro San Andreas. Now, these cigars, or actually this one and only cigar, came for me in the mail from the Studio Tobacco Advisory Board, or for the Studio Tobacco Advisory Board. And all I know about it is that it utilizes San Andreas Mexican Maduro wrapper leaf, and it is a 4.5 by 64 Vitola. Personally, I kind of like the 460s. I don't know why we got bigger and longer, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see if I can sneak it in before I need to call it quits. Either way, I'll tell you what I think of it until then. Before I cut it, you know, the first thing that jumped out at me about the cigar is just how dark it is. And a lot of times what happens is, when you get these really dark cigars, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there are veins that run the length of the cigar, and you could see one kind of right around here. A lot of times when you get these dark wrapper leaves, those veins tend to be lighter in color, and they really pop, and they look kind of goofy all over the wrapper. It's not a very appealing look, but in this case everything is consistently the same color. The color consistency looks pretty much the same from wrapper leaf to vein, and you know, from head to foot. So from an aesthetics point of view, it looks very good. So I'm gonna go ahead, clip and light this cigar and get started. I really don't have a lot of time to be staring at an unlit cigar. So well, that's not good. It's kind of stiff. I'm not getting really anything as far as flavors on the cold draw. Cigar is kind of stiff, and I'm afraid that that's going to make it take even longer to smoke. But we're kind of past the point of no return. The cigar's already clipped. Looks like everything is working against me this morning. It looks my lighter is fluttering, which I think means it's low on fuel. I got a late start to the day, so we'll see how it goes. I did want to say that this cigar's got a couple of things going against it, and I don't have the bar set really high for this cigar. First being, I didn't like the original Nub Maduro, which I think was Connecticut broadleaf. It just didn't do it for me. Not that it was bad, it seemed a little on the inconsistent side, and it just didn't do it for me like the other nubs did. The other being, I wasn't a fan of the latest release of the Serie V Maduro using the San Andreas wrapper. So same wrapper on a cigar that I wasn't crazy about before. We'll see how it goes. It's got a little bit of sort of like a dry chocolate kind of a flavor. It's got some spice through the sinus, and that dry sort of chocolate flavor kind of washes over the palate. We're off to a start. It's a start at least. I'm not crazy about the way it's drawing, but we're just going to go with it. So sit tight. I'll be back. We'll take a look at the first whatever I look at, whether it's the first third, first half, whatever I decide spur of the moment. So sit tight, and I'll be right back. Well, I'm back, and I thought I'd just turn the camera on and touch base with you at this point. It's been half an hour, 45 minutes, and I'm not getting very far in this cigar. And I'm not quite sure how much of it I'll be able to smoke before I have to stop what I'm doing and go upstairs. But so far, it's burning really well. It holds a nice, tight, compacted ash. I would expect this to hang on for quite a while yet. The smoke is mildly dense. It's kind of airy. I'm having difficulty getting a mouthful of smoke out of it without pulling really hard. And as I'm doing it, the cigar's getting warm, so I have to really pace myself where I'm pulling hard on the cigar to get a mouthful of smoke, and then it sits in the ashtray for longer than I would generally allow it to sit in the ashtray, so it can cool back down, and then, you know, kind of rinse and repeat. Flavor-wise, it's enjoyable. It's better than what I remember of the other Nub Maduro. Actually, I haven't had that cigar in quite some time. I just didn't like it, so I didn't buy them. In this case, I've got there's some dry, kind of a cocoa chocolatey kind of flavor that I'm getting out of it. And there's also some bitterness that's coming on. And while bitterness isn't a flavor profile that I'm always keen on, in this case it goes really well. It's got those dark sort of tones to the cigar, and the bitterness adds to that. It makes for a nice complexity. And come to think of it, I think if this cigar were a bit bolder and the flavors were a bit more intense, this would be something that I would enjoy while drinking a stout, or like a Guinness, or stout. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But the flavors are interesting, but they're not very intense. They're medium at best as far as intensity goes. Body, this is mild to medium. I'm not. Maybe if I were getting more smoke to coat the palate, I would find it to be more full, but it's just mild to medium at this point. The flavor level is medium. So far, this cigar is like mediocre. It's really nothing to write home about. It's not wowing me, but I've still got quite a bit of cigar to go. So I'm going to stop talking and smoke some more so I can get as much out of the cigar as possible. And I'll be back and we'll take a look at the next portion. So sit tight. Well, I'm back and still plugging along with my Nub San Andreas Maduro. And as you can see, it is really a beautiful cigar. It's got a nice dark oily wrapper. It's very appealing to the eye. The ash is nice and compacted. It's tight. The burn line waves just a little bit here and there, but for the most part, it is a very appealing cigar to look at. It's just beautiful, to put it simply. It looks very, very good. But when you when you go beyond what it looks like and to how it's smoking as far as the draw is concerned, I mean, it's just such a big letdown. I'm pulling so hard that I'm overheating the cigar, but I'm getting like very little smoke. I mean, there's definitely smoke coming out of the cigar. It's burning. It's producing smoke, but it's just it seems airy and light, and it's just not what I'm accustomed to. So I'm struggling with that aspect of it. I'm just pulling on the cigar so hard that I'm not getting the smoke volume that I'm accustomed to, and it's kind of frustrating. I mean, it's kind of like one of those cartoons where you see them sucking on something so hard that their face caves in. That's the way I feel when I'm smoking a cigar. I'm just not getting a decent volume of smoke. The body is still mild to medium. It really hasn't picked up, and I'm not really getting a lot of smoke across the palate to notice much of a change. The flavor level is still medium-ish. Mild to medium, I would think. There are some interesting flavors going on. I'm getting some coffee tones. I really like that the dry sort of chocolatey cocoa flavor that I'm getting out of it. The spice through the sinus is increased, which I like. I like the varied spiciness that I'm getting out of it, and the bitterness is increased as well. And I especially like the bitterness that I'm getting out of the cigar. I think that it makes the cigar more deep, richer, a little more complex, and I like that. Outside of that, I mean, while I am enjoying certain aspects of the cigar, it's just I'm not getting enough smoke. I'm not enjoying it, and I really don't like the format either. I mean, I've smoked several boxes of Nub 460s in various formats. The Habano, the Connecticut, and the Cameroon, but I don't know whether it's just the extra 6 ring gauge, or the fact that I haven't, or the 4 ring gauge, or the fact that I haven't smoked one in probably a couple of months, but it's just not comfortable. It feels too large, and even with a cigar this large, I would expect to get just gobs and gobs of smoke, and I'm getting like next to nothing. So I'm still trudging along. I got about 20 minutes until I have to give up on it. So I'll probably be back one more time, take a look, one last final look at the cigar before I angrily throw it in the ashtray and get my day started. And hopefully this evening smoke something from the Studio Tobacco advisory board sampler that produces some smoke volume. So sit tight and I'll be right back. Alright, I am back. I've got just a couple of minutes before I need to call it quits, and I think I'm going to be pitching this cigar very, very soon. As you can see, it's still burning very much like it was the last time I had the camera on. It looks great, and as far as smoke volume, nothing has changed. Flavors haven't changed either. So what's the whole point of turning the camera back on? Well, mainly because I said I would, and secondly, just to kind of talk about it a little bit more. I got the Studio Tobacco Advisory Board sampler, which is basically one cigar of each, and I think this is a great example of why you shouldn't send someone one cigar and ask them to talk about it, especially on the internet and on the blogs and whatnot, because it's very possible that this cigar is or was a dud, and maybe with one that had a better draw, the flavors would have came alive and it would have been such a better cigar. But in this case, this is my one and only, and this is what happens. If it's bad, this is what you get. Even if it's a bum stick. I mean, I can only talk about what I have, and what I have is one sample. So that is my first impression look at the Nub San Andreas Maduro, and as it stands, if I were to see these on store shelves, I'd pass. I wouldn't buy it. While there were bits and pieces of enjoyment out of the cigar, I found the flavor profile very interesting, but it just that interesting, enjoyable flavor profile couldn't make up for the fact that I just couldn't get any smoke out of it, or couldn't get an adequate volume of smoke out of it. So there you have it. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be smoking next out of the sampler. There was the Nub San Andreas Maduro. There's Cane Double F, Cane Daytona, Cane F Lancero, and there's one other one that doesn't have a name. It's just a concept blend. I may sort of run through the sampler and do first impressions reviews on all of them if everyone is interested. one way or the other, I'm going to smoke them all. I don't know in what order or whether or not there will be a video associated with all of them. All depends on timing and how things work. But that is my look at the Nub San Andreas Maduro. So until next time, happy smoking and take it easy.